Welcome back. Hopefully you've caffeinated and take care of other human needs. And we are ready to continue talking about some of the big open questions around SBOM implementation. And one of the key ones we sort of heard is, hey, a lot of the original thinking about SBOM was around on-premise software, devices, enterprise software. It's on my network. I need to know what it is. But of course, as we all know, that's not necessarily the future of software. And so one of the core questions is, what about the cloud, defined in all the myriad ways that people have tried to define it? And so we set up a working group that had a lot of different discussions. They spent about 6 months really exploring the space, talking about the different ways that we might think about it. And it boiled down to 3 dominant themes. And so we sort of broke apart into 3 subgroups. And you're going to hear 5 minutes from each of those subgroups. And you can sort of think of it in a little hierarchical model. So one of them is just the idea of, hey, for traditional SBOM or SBOM classic, what does it mean for software as a service? And so Ricardo will talk about that in just a moment. And then other people said, you know, cloud-based applications and modern software isn't just about software dependencies, it's about services. It's about API calls. How do we think about that? And so Nisha is going to talk about that in a moment. And then lastly, and perhaps most ambitiously, we said, hey, you know, cloud isn't just software, it's a whole stack. And maybe some people who are worried about risks are thinking about that. And so we're going to hear 5 minutes from each of those group leads. So Ricardo, come on up. And then we'll have 2 voices from the sky. And then we'll have 10 minutes for questions for all 3 groups. So Ricardo has probably done the most as a working group chair of spending his time pulling people in. So every event he goes to in DC and around the country, he comes back and said, oh, I talked to this person, this person, this person, and they're super excited to help us. So it's been fantastic. Thank you, Ricardo.
All right, thank you, Dr. Alan Freeman. Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning, depending on where you are. I'm Ricardo Reyes. I'm a senior solutions architect with TideLift. TideLift provides tools and services for improving security and resiliency for open source software supply chain for that power modern applications. Having said that, I'm here to represent the group. Sorry, I'm not used to this microphone. To represent the SBOM Classic modern applications, part of the CISA SBOM Cloud group. And the goal here today is to give you 4 takeaways, points. Why the group exists, what our missions are, the SBOM focus, challenges, and how you can volunteer your time to join this group. As we discuss SBOM, as we know, modern applications today are hosted on the cloud and are delivered as a software as a service. So with that in mind, what we discuss is that, you know, the shared responsibility model from different cloud providers. As you can see in this screen, we have 2 models, one from Microsoft and Amazon Web Services. But what you can highlight here in red is that we have the application layer. So the focus for our group is just an application layer, the software that runs on the cloud infrastructure. And the reason we bring this up is because we wanted to show and illustrate the complexity of a SaaS software that runs on the cloud. And we want to show the sort of the focus for us in the group. And from there, we learned that, you know, we wanted to understand the different delivery methods in which providers give you software on the cloud. And so we have 3 options that we discussed for 4 months with Alan Freeman and the committee. We spent countless hours discussing these services. And it was very challenging because, as you can imagine, there are a lot of professionals with, especially in the field of cloud, that know their stuff and security and network and software engineering and system management, that they had opinions in terms of how SBOM should be created, managed on the cloud. And the key is that we have 3 models: SaaS hosted in the cloud, SaaS hosted in private environments for clients, and SaaS hosted for traditional environments, like self-hosted for some cases. From there, we have concluded that the main objective, the main conclusion from this discussion was that SaaS providers must issue an SBOM to B2B customers because they need to understand the risks in the software supply chain that are part of the third-party services that they're using. And that's the key takeaway that we wanted to address as part of the SBOM requirements for SaaS. And for the last month and a half or so, with the leadership of Dr. Alan Freeman, we created an outline. The outline is focused primarily on a white paper describing the requirements for SaaS and SBOMs. This document is available online, and we do have, the link will be provided at the end of this conversation so that you can actually get access to the document, read it, and provide insights with your expertise. And that's the main objective. We have the outline, but we need to get more insights, volunteer work from the participants that are here in the cloud. Here's a list of participants that we have. We have a few of the Amazon Web Services providers. We have, Amazon Web Services, Henry, and also we have Adrian from Microsoft. They were actually involved from the beginning discussing the services, and we have expertise from all different areas. And the challenge that we face is that, oftentimes we spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes just understanding a sentence on the way it's structured, the way it's created, because it may mean differently for some different people in the space. So that's one of the challenges that we face in the group. And so what we want to do is come to an understanding in terms of how we want to present that information correctly on the document. More challenges that we face here is that we have diversity, right? We have a lot of industry leaders who are bringing different perspectives. And the challenge that we face here is that we want to listen to everybody, but we need to make progress. To make progress, we need to make sure that we can agree to the terms, agree to what's being written, so that we can define a white paper, define the requirements of an SBOM that are part of the cloud. And also the scope, right? We show the layer on the cloud. We are primarily focused just on the application layer, not infrastructure. And oftentimes we deviate. We discuss areas, and we want to make sure that we can collaborate online and share the information, and again, accept the terminology. Here's the slide for the actual ways that you can communicate with us. You can join our meetings that I host every Friday, 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time, in the meeting minutes, as well as the white paper you can access. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo.
5 minutes.
We'll stick around for the front so that we can have some questions. Again, Ricardo's done a great job managing this, and also I want to acknowledge Deanna, who sort of stepped up to help run it. And what I love about Deanna is from Honeywell, so we really are bringing the OT perspective as well, not just the big modern tech folks. All right, we now have Nisha. Do we have a Nisha? Excellent. So Nisha has been working on thinking about how do we think about service transparency. Give us a moment while we get her queued up to presenter mode. And again, thanks everyone for your patience online. We know it hasn't been perfect. We're going to take the feedback you've already given, plus any more that you give us afterwards as we plan future events.
Can you hear me?
We can. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for sharing in my pain with Microsoft Teams. I'm Nisha Kumar. I am a software engineer at Oracle. I led the Service Transparency Working Group. The reason I'm using it in the past tense is because we have adjourned, and we now have a deliverable that's a white paper, and our discussions have now moved to the wider SBOM cloud meeting, so we can talk about the feedback from the white paper. So our mission was to provide an initial list of fields describing a software service. We had...
Nisha, I'm going to interrupt you. Are there slides that you want to share?
I am sharing slides.
Can you try stop sharing and then sharing them again?
Let me see if I can do that.
Thank you. Appreciate your willingness to work on Teams.
So, stop spotlighting me. How about now?
We've got a darkened screen, so hopefully that, nope, that did not take. CISA team, do we have her slides handy? Okay. So Nisha, you're going to have to move forward without slides for the moment. Sorry about that. We will make sure those get posted as soon as possible on the CISA website. All right, we now see a screen from you, but we don't see slides.
It should come up now.
We see your team's screen.
Now?
Not quite. But fortunately, you are an excellent summarizer. And so we will rely on you to sort of paint a mental picture for us. And then we will post them. And you guys are going to want to see Nisha's slides because she often does hand illustrations, which are really wonderful. Okay, Nisha, sorry for interrupting you. Sorry that you have to do this just through words, but good luck.
Thank you. At least you can hear me. So we were working to provide an initial list of fields describing a software service. And we have scoped it down to online applications that are sending and receiving network calls. So mostly applications that work at the layer 7 of the network stack, not layer 3 or anything in between. So that means that we're not talking about system daemons, for example, just services that are communicating using HTTPS or TCP/IP or whatever. Our goal was to deliver a white paper, which we have done, and there'll be a link to it that I will share in the chat shortly. The white paper describes the motivation, that is why we need this information, the fields that we had come up with, and gaps that we need to do future work on. And the last goal we had was identify the gaps in our knowledge and document them for possible future work. The topics that we had discussed, we started off with use cases. So in the beginning, we had a long discussion about what use cases would SBOMs for cloud applications or SaaS applications involve. And we had a big list of that. We took those use cases and we sorted them out into what we can put in scope for this particular white paper and what's out of scope. And once we sorted them out, we tried to figure out what data we would need to address the use cases. So very use case centric or use case driven. Our scope for sorting what is in scope and what is out of scope for this white paper was we picked what we knew. What we didn't know or what we had doubts about or we had difference in opinion about, we did not put that in scope, but we did put those in the future work. And what we have put specifically out of scope is use cases that could be addressed by SBOM Classic or any of the other working groups that were dealing with that particular use case. And the last thing we put in scope was direct service dependencies, and what we put out of scope was transitive service dependencies. So what we mean by that is if you are using a service, like an online service, we would like this BOM or a bill of services to list out the services that service is using. So this is third party. But we did not want to go beyond that, which is the fourth party, because services generally act in the same way as you would like a typical manufacturing or food like supply chain environment in which there is like, it's an opaque organization. And so when you're dealing with them, you're dealing basically with an organization that works with other organizations. So the way that the list of dependencies work in that way is very much focused on direct versus transitive dependencies. And then I would like to talk a little bit about how we reached our consensus, because we did move very fast and we were very precise about what we included in this white paper. We had time-bound discussions. So whenever the group found that we were like kind of talking in circles, we said, okay, this is a complicated topic. We are going to move that to future discussions. We asked specific questions. One of the reasons why we used use cases is because that actually focused us into talking about, okay, what kind of information do we need in order to address that particular use case? We also worked with some real world test fixtures. In the white paper, there are some diagrams that have different scenarios. So there's the mobile application scenario, there's the thin client scenario, there's the web service that uses a CDN scenario. And these are things that we had expertise to discuss. There are many other scenarios where we didn't have expertise to discuss, and that's where we put all our work into future work. And the last thing we tried to do is not use the word SBOM, because we were dealing with services, and SBOM is a very well-known term right now, and we all know what that means as far as software components is concerned. But we specifically tried to use words like services or things that's hosted online and that kind of terminology, because it is a different kind of environment. So we do have, I will share the Google Doc. What we are asking from the community is use cases, scenarios that we didn't think about, and edge cases that we didn't think about. And what we specifically are looking for is some kind of test fixture. So something that says, okay, here's a scenario. We'd like to test whether the data fields that we had come up with solve for that scenario. And we need expertise in a number of areas because we couldn't cover a whole lot of use cases because we didn't have the expertise to cover them. We need experts in data governance, service availability, and observability, because there's a lot of information that we didn't cover about what is the risk management of a service being online or offline or degraded in quality of service, or what kind of metrics we can use to put that into a bill of services. And then we had no idea how to cover any of the data governance stuff like encryption in transit or at rest, whether who has access to that data, what are they doing with that data? We had no expertise in that. So that's what we're looking for. And with that, wonderful. I'll say thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Nisha. The good news is we caught your tail end of slides, so we appreciate your flexibility. If you are signed up or want to sign up for the Cloud Working Group, they are going to be taking the draft that Nisha helped shepherd and we're going to be talking about it. So we're looking forward to getting some input on those topics, or as Mrs. suggested, say, that's future work. Let's get some of the basics out now. Okay, we have the last perspective from the cloud with Bhargav. And so Bhargav, we've got 5 minutes to explain the vision of transparency for the full stack. And we've got your slides up there. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, for the opportunity, and Cesar. Hope everyone is able to see my screen and the presentation. Okay, I assume it's a yes. Thank you. So, yeah, we are a subgroup in the SBOM Cloud Stack Transparency, and I'm a volunteer leader. I represent the healthcare sector, and I play a principal role in the security area for Blue Shield of California. And we have people representing from all over the world, in fact, both from a consumer and CSP perspective. And what is our mission? We are primarily dealing with developing a stack, right? Both from a consumer and CSP perspective. So we want to contribute to the development of an industry standard for the implementation of SBOM for the cloud, inclusive of all the deployment models, maybe public, private, or hybrid, as well as the different types of cloud services, right? In general, right? So we are using the overarching industry standard of infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and develop a global standard that can be adopted by any industry, consumer types, as well as CSPs, right? In developing a full stack of minimum components for which we require an SBOM for. That is what the subgroup is focused on. What are the minimum technology components, and in a brand agnostic manner, right? In order to avoid any vendor lock-in, right? And that is our focus area. And yes, as Alan pointed out, it is definitely ambitious, right? And we are ensuring that we reference all the great work done by CISA and the industry thus far, right? CSP standards. We're looking at the big three CSPs and how they are set up in terms of stack. We use the shared responsibilities matrix to ensure where we ideally need SBOMs for, in ensuring that we cover both sides, right? Consumer and the CSP. We are looking to resolve the cloud full stack, and we are not reinventing the wheel. And we have industry standards, reference architectures we are using for this to ensure that the full stack is represented. And the challenge here is our work is focused on, as you may know, right? We have cloud providers now looking at providing SBOMs for the SaaS area, application tier, as well as the infrastructure as code to a certain extent, but not beyond that, right? So we're looking at resolving the distinct components of the full stack, right? All the way from the app tier to the application hosting tier to the middleware tier, right? The OS tier to the hypervisors, service integrations, right? Cloud native services, etc. Right? So it's quite a large undertaking, but we're looking at the minimum required technology distinct components. And there's consensus on testing it, and we're going to use industry leading frameworks such as Meter and Attack to test it. And our goal is to arrive at a baseline, right? To provide a list of minimum components that are going to be useful, for which we absolutely need SBOMs for, right? On demand, right, is what we're looking at here. And we're going to describe the use cases and benefits as well, right? And where it can be plugged in, how we are going to, how we're going to feed into all the ISACs, all the industry standards, right? Ensuring that we can eventually, influence it. So what are our deliverables, thought process? It's going to be a publication or a sub-publication for the larger goal, right? We're going to, definitely, right now it's a brain dump, and we are at iteration 2, and, and we've done considerable progress, great team, and we're going to circulate it, etc. For consensus. So we're looking at providing you with the thought process behind this, significance of the shared responsibilities matrix and how to use it, cloud technology stack derivation from industry standards and final derivations of technology components, table of minimum required distinct technology components, which is the primary deliverable, and the use case and relationships. What are our future plans? We are at round 2, and at this point in time, we are planning to test it, further brainstorm ideas, and do community outreaches to major CSPs via CISA, as well as externally, finalize iterations, iron out issues, and develop the publication. So we're welcoming experts join the team. Yeah, that's where we're at.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bhargav. We appreciate this. This is this is a really interesting approach, and I think again in the sort of crawl, walk, run model, this is a pretty advanced way of thinking about it, but it's also pretty foundational as we sort of look to understand, especially for high assurance use cases or people that are very interested in tracking specific parts of their ecosystem. So I think we have run through our cloud approach. That working group meets every other week on, someone remind me, is it Wednesdays or Thursdays? Wednesdays. Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 Pacific, and for Tomo-san from JP Search, way too early. And so we have that. So if you want to join that working group or one of the subgroups, send us a note. As you heard, everyone is really interested in hearing from your perspective because those subgroups, small, agile, but may not have the global view.